Hello and welcome back to my channel for this, the first video of 2025, and I'm coming to you today from my living room. I love my living room. It's the biggest room in the flat. It's got these beautiful high ceilings. It's got built-in storage. It even has a mini staircase, which always pleases me. I've been slowly buying furniture and bits for this room over the years, and I would say that it is coming together. It's got a kind of shambolic grandma energy, so it definitely feels homey to me. But that being said, it's not done, and there's still lots of little projects that I want to do in here and areas that I want to improve. You might have seen me make over the little wall over there in a previous video where I made this paper mache side table lamp hybrid thing to try and bring the space together, and I've got to say I think it really did. So today I'm hoping to achieve a similar result with this wall here behind me with my TV. I didn't have any specific plans to make over this space until a few days ago. It's just been Christmas, so I've spent the last few days generally rotting on the sofa and staring at the TV, and naturally, as I was watching my shows, my eyes did begin to wander a bit around the surrounding area, and I started being critical of it and decided that I needed to change it. But this is the current state of things, and I'll start by saying that I don't want to change either of the main bits of furniture that are already in this space. The TV itself is sitting on top of this mid-century sideboard, which I bought not long after moving into this flat a few years ago, and it's just a beautiful and highly functional piece of furniture that I don't think I ever want to get rid of. And then next to it I've got this ladder style bookcase which matches another one that I have in this room and which I think is absolutely fine. So it's not the furniture that's bothering me, it's just everything else that's going on here. Behind the TV I've got this framed poster of ABBA and a couple of mirrors. Also this protest sign that I made when Trump was coming over to the UK sometime around 2016-2017. Funnily enough, I would say he's one of few people that we should be closing our borders to, but really none of these things need to be living here. It's giving storage more so than it's giving decoration, and they've just been plonked there with no purpose or thought at all, if I'm honest. So I do need to get these out of this space and find a new home for them elsewhere in the flat. I've also got a couple of these storage boxes shoved underneath my sideboard, and I think it's just making the space look cluttered, so they need to go. And also these shelves I don't think look awful, but I think it's time for a refresh and a restyle of those too. What I think is going wrong with this area at the moment has a lot to do with the scale and height of things, which I think is just making everything feel like it's really crammed in and it's highlighting the TV way too much. I want to try and visually widen this space while also adding a darker backdrop that will hopefully camouflage the TV a bit. So the plan, I think, is to paint a large rectangle of dark brown across this corner going onto these two walls, and I really do not know if it's going to look good, but it's a plan I came up with yesterday and I'm intrigued enough to give it a try. Then I want to make a paper mache thing to go around the TV and up onto the walls, which will give me a bit of extra storage space and a place to display some artwork. The exact configuration of this is still TBD because I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to make. I'm hoping to be able to do at least a semi-convincing painting of some clouds, which will go up on this unit above the TV. And then I also want to make use of the charity shop dollhouse that I bought last year and turn it into some kind of lighting feature over on the bookshelf. So this is the general stage one plan altogether. Obviously there's no styling on the shelves or whatever in this drawing because that's probably stuff that's better to figure out IRL, and that's all we can do in preparation. So now I think we can move on to clearing this space so we're ready to paint. It's so dead. It's a few hours later. My clearing out got interrupted by a trip to B&Q where I picked up a tin of dark brown paint. This is the only option for dark brown paint they had in a price range that I was willing to pay that wasn't going to require mixing. And it's called Decadent Damson by Dulux. I obviously haven't swatched this or anything, and I think it's a good few shades darker than I was thinking. But since I'm doing this all off the cuff anyway, I think that this will hopefully be fine. fine. We'll try it out. Now I'm just carrying on sorting out all of these. I pulled the storage box out from under my sideboard and I kind of know where that's going temporarily. But what I have also done is do this in a kind of silly way where I've just been chucking things over to that side of the room, and there's already not a huge amount of space over there because I have that giant Christmas tree up. The Christmas tree is adorned with things that I've just thrown over here. So I'm thinking, since I'm in an organisational mood and I don't want to start the painting until tomorrow because the light's not going to be very good pretty soon, I am going to take the tree down. The tree's gone. That was a lot of effort. I'll move the furniture out from the wall tomorrow when we're ready to paint. I'm pleased with today's progress. I bought my paint, I cleared the space, and I removed all evidence of festivity from the room, which is good. I like to go into January with Christmas as a distant memory because Christmas is a lot. One last thing that I want to check today is whether my dollhouse, which is currently living up there, I do like it up there, but the roof is too high for the space. And ideally I want to have it somewhere where the roof can be on. So I want to check whether it will fit on the top shelf of this shelf because I'm wanting to illuminate the inside of it so it comes through like a lamp. And if it fit there, that would be really, really good for me. So I'm going to get it down and we're going to try it out. If this doesn't work, I'll edit this bit out of the video. So let's see whether that dream could come true. That was quite stressful. It's actually heavier than I thought, which maybe will mean it's not the best thing to have at the top of this ladder shelf, but we'll see. Ooh. It does jut out quite a bit this way, so I would need to add some sort of base on it. I'm going to need to make sure that this thing's weighted so it doesn't fall off the top and hit someone in the head. When the roof is on, it wants to fall forward. Where there's a will, there's a way. It's about 10 minutes later, and the conclusion is that it would not be safe to have the dollhouse on the top shelf of this. The shelf is not deep enough, and it will not stay upright when the roof is on, and the whole point of taking it off of that shelf was so that I could have the roof on it. I think the obvious solution is to put it on the bottom shelf instead, because that shelf is wide enough, and also if it's at lower level, it'll actually mean that you can interact with it. Sadly though, this isn't going to fit on this shelf height wise, so I do need to take out the second shelf up, and I've got a selection of hexagonal Allen keys here, one of which I'm hoping came with this shelf. Well, that's just dreamy. I can use it as little secret storage, and I also am definitely going to illuminate it. But that is me done for today. It's a new day and the space has been cleared, meaning that my TV unit's currently over there. All of the drawers and all of this mess is here. And I have some shelves just in my hallway now. So that's fun. Now it's time for me to tape off so I can get painting. Plan is for it to be a big rectangle of brown. I don't want it to touch the top of the wall or top of the skirting board, and I'm doing it this way because I can admit that I have probably an unfair aversion to feature walls, which is what this is basically going to be. But because it's not touching the top and bottom, I'm saying it's not a feature wall, it's a rectangle of colour, though actually a feature wall is also just a big rectangle of colour most of the time. But anyway, that's what we're doing. I just know that isn't straight. That will come out a little bit further than this, or should I have it the same depth as this? There. Do you have any faith in me at this point? I don't know if I have faith in myself with this idea. I could get the spirit level out, couldn't I? That's all the way in the other room. I hope that's straight. Let's stand back and see. Are you with me? Are you against me? I quite like it. Do you ever have it when you're painting and you tape out something and then you think, maybe I should just leave it with the tape? The tape looks pretty good, but I'm not going to do that because I've already bought my paint. We can start slapping it on, I guess. I should really use a roller for this for an even finish, but I'm going to use a brush because I prefer it. Oh, it's purple. Decadent damson. I was just going to talk about why I chose brown paint and why I think that that's an interesting choice for me. And I've opened it and it's purple. But I'm going to proceed regardless because I'm all ready and I've bought the paint and I don't want to waste it. And purple will probably look nice. Hopefully it will dry like the colour on the tin, which looks a bit more brown than this colour. A purple rectangle. How do I feel about that? It's happening though. It's happening right now. It's about to happen. And look. It's happened. Yeah, I was going to talk about how I think that brown is like a kind of unexpected and mature colour choice for me. But this kind of is too. Only I can't call it a colour choice because it's not the colour I thought I was choosing, and that is really my bad. I'm just hoping that this is going to be a fortunate mistake, and by the end of this video I'll be doing a little voiceover saying I'm so glad about that paint colour. What a stroke of luck that was. That turned out perfect. What are damsons? Are they plums? Plums are purple. This is what you get when you don't know your fruits. I mean, it's a nice colour. It's very rich, very winey. All that really matters though for the idea and the design is that this is a dark background for the TV, which it is. To be honest, it's really hard to tell what colour it is because it's so pissing dark in here. This is the darkest room in the flat, so it might seem counterproductive to be painting a dark colour on the wall, but at this point I've realised that it's always going to be a darker room. So I might as well lean into it. It's nice paint though. It goes on really well. I feel like I need to move my limbs a bit post-Christmas, and painting's actually a really good thing for that. It looks more brown now that it's dried, except for on that picture rail where it still looks purple. We're on to the last little corner. Today is actually New Year's Eve, and it's quite fun to start off the new year with a new paint colour. But that is the first coat done, and it is definitely a big dark rectangle, which I think is what I said I wanted it to be. It looks pretty terrible on camera if I'm honest, but it definitely feels impactful, and hopefully once I've done a second coat it will look a bit less rubbishy than this. I'm going to let this dry for a little bit and then I'm going to go over it with a second coat of paint, and then we will reconvene. This is how it's looking with 2 coats on it. It's a lot less patchy now. And I've just been sitting looking at the living room, and I realised that this dark shape now kind of mirrors the shape of the window. I don't know, there's just something pleasing about that to me. It feels balanced somehow. It's the 1st of January. I'm wearing a gigantic hoodie and it is time to de-tape this wall. I wasn't going to do anything today and it is already mid-afternoon, hence the terrible lighting, but I've got my boyfriend coming over later and I kind of want to get this furniture back in place because that shelf is really blocking things in the hallway. So I figured why not go ahead and take the tape off now. I ended up doing 2 coats of the paint with the brush and then a final coat on top with a roller, reluctantly, just to even out the surface a bit. And I think it's come out nice. It is very, very dark. And I don't know if this is going to draw more attention to the TV than there was before in the room. But, oh shit. I really messed it up at the bottom there. Oh fuck. Clearly we've had a few issues here, and I think this is due to my tape pulling technique, because actually we didn't get much bleed through from the actual painting. This is the really annoying bit, which I'm trying to decide whether I can say that I like it, and it's like ripped paper kind of mirroring that ripped paper there. Anyway, it's on the edge, so I can still move the furniture back and figure that out tomorrow. This bit is the other bit that didn't go so well, and that bit's going to be behind the dollhouse, so it actually doesn't matter at all. We accept a certain level of bodge job on this channel. Overall, I do think it's interesting. It's kind of dynamic in the space. I hope this ends up looking good. At present, I'm 50-50 on it. You know what they say, the only way out is through. And I think once the TV shelving is up and we've got art in there, it's gonna end up looking nice. So I will see you again tomorrow and we will continue with this nonsense. So now my furniture's back in place, I need to start thinking about my storage thing that's going over this TV, which I'm going to make out of cardboard and paper mache, kind of in the same vein as the sideboard over there, as I mentioned. One thing I have done since yesterday is pull my sofa slightly out from the wall this way. So it's now at a more diagonal angle in the middle of the room. So most of the time, the TV is probably going to be pulled out a bit like this at an angle. So I'm thinking this storage, because I want it to integrate both of these walls, can be kind of a corner unit, and that will work with the TV at this angle. A low two-tiered kind of unit thing that's going to provide one shelf space of storage and then two picture ledges at the top that I can use to display artwork. One of the key things I want this thing to do is hide my cable clutter and generally just make this a more usable decorative space. So I'm going to get going by making a cardboard frame. I think it would be useful if I had some sort of wooden or more sturdy thing I could use as a base for this. I can't think of anything appropriate, so we're just going to do lots of layers of thick cardboard, and I'm hoping I have more than enough of that here. So I'm going to build the very basic shape in here and then take us through to the art room to fix up the strength of it, because the lighting is rubbish in this room, especially now I've painted this wall a really dark purple. Actually, no, it does look dark purple at the moment on camera. In person, it looks more brown. That scraggly edge there continues to annoy me, so I am going to paint over it. Later on in this video, we're covering all bases with 3 different types of tape to try and get this thing kind of securely put together. This is the rest of the same box I used on that unit over there, so I can say that this is a matching living room set from the exact same factory. Where's my scissors? What's the right width? How is it going to work? Let me start by unplugging this. Oh, I hate cables with a passion. So if it has a back piece, it will make it more strong. This is all going to be painted with the same paint as the wall to kind of blend it in quite a bit, so I'm not too worried about whether it's quite a big piece. I've made this like pillar at the side that I'm hoping I can reinforce enough that it can hold the weight on this end. So if the telly is like that, I want to be folding it back on itself, kind of along that line. I really don't have specific plans ahead of time for how I construct frames for things. It is just a suck it and see type procedure until I can get the right shape and the right level of strength that I need. I'm just gonna keep adding bits on and cutting bits off and sticking bits together. That reinforces that quite nicely. I'm questioning my ability to do this well. Also, I'm wondering if I have enough big bits of cardboard. This is going to end up being a real patchwork job, which is definitely going to affect the strength of it. This is how it's looking after about an hour, and it looks rubbish. I like to think that the more rubbish something looks at the beginning of the process, the more satisfying it is at the end. I've got this cardboard pillar on one end, and I'm just making up the first shelf. I do want this to be 2 shelves high because I want the top one where the picture's going to go to be more raised than it is now. You might be wondering why I'm not just screwing some shelves into the wall above the TV rather than making this whole paper mache concoction, and that's because the walls in here are really dodgy. They're mainly lath and plaster, so I don't like to screw into them because it's just a messy nightmare and doesn't work. So generally I just prop things up and hang things from the picture rail in here. Taken to using coat hangers for some reason, and I do like how it looks, but I don't want to do a coat hanger in this area. I think that the built-in shelves will be better. I find this part of the process really hard to film because so much of it is just trial and error and it takes me ages. But I'm going to take this down and kind of secure down the bits I've got in place with some tape, and then we'll go on to the next shelf up. It's a little while later and I've just disassembled what I had so far because I was getting very concerned about the strength issue of this. I do not want it to be some flimsy thing that's just going to fall apart. That defeats the object of spending so long making it. So I've gone around the flat and tried to find some additional things that I can integrate into this to give it strength. And the things I have found are this length of MDF. I had a load of these and I've slowly been turning them into various things. That's the last one, and I'm thinking that can act as some sort of spine to give it some vertical strength. And then I found this shoebox, which I've been using when I'm DIYing to shove tools and things in, so there is a bit of paint splatter and whatnot on it, but it's quite a sturdy shoebox, and I'm thinking that could anchor the other side of it somehow. So I'm going to reassemble with these things included, and then I'll show you an update.
Because that's what today is all about.
So I've got one shoebox upside down at the bottom there, which I'm thinking is a place where I can hide the multi-plug. I've got one on its end at the back, and I'm thinking I can prop this first shelf up on that. This is now inside of this pillar, and it's given it a lot more strength on this end too. So I think I'm feeling a bit more confident now. Still not sure how the second shelf is going to go. Let's get this first one in place and then worry about that. So I rolled up some cardboard and made a second pillar on this side, which I've shoved through a hole that I cut in this shoebox. So now that's giving a bit of extra strength for that first shelf there. It is a weird configuration of things. It looks like I'm making like a cat tower or something, which to be fair isn't a bad idea. Maybe I should make one of those. I don't know if I'm getting carried away with the pillars now, but I'm gonna add another one up this corner to support that second shelf. Thoughts, questions, concerns? I have all three. The frame is kind of more or less made now. I do need to add some strength to it, but it's hard to do when it's in position. So I'm going to do that once I've moved it over into my art room. For now, let's just see how the TV fits. I think it looks okay. I mean, it just looks like a load of cardboard. This bit of wood is too long, so I'm going to have to hack that off when it's down off of here. I need to trim this off, and I also want to add a hole to the side of this shoebox here, because I'm thinking the multi-plug can live underneath there, but I will still need to access it sometimes. I've made quite a mess. Lots of detritus everywhere. And the next step for this is to do a coat of the paper mache on it. So for the rest of this evening, I'm going to tidy up this room, and I'm going to try and move that over into my art room so that we can continue on it tomorrow. It's a new day, and this thing is now in here. I've just been doing a little bit of additional sticking, but I think what I'm going to do is just build up the strength on this bit by bit as I paper mache it, because different bits of it are going to require different things. And also this is quite a big paper mache job, so this is going to be going over many days, probably weeks. And I need to get started on it, so I'm going to get going on this section here today and see how much stronger I can get this. It is much more efficient to use a big brush for something like this, because I'm pretty sure this is the biggest thing I've ever paper mache'd. It's taken up a lot of space in this room, and I knocked that thing down, so obviously that will need mending as I paper mache it. It's coming along, it's coming along. What's all of this then, eh? It's day 2 in the paper mache, and this is what I got up to yesterday. I actually got more done than I thought I would, seeing as I only did a couple of hours of this. And the bits that have had the first coat of paper on are already starting to feel more solid, which is good. Today, I think I want to focus on paper mashing the whole of the back of this to get that kind of tucked in one piece. And I also need to cut off this little bit of excess MDF. I don't know why I've left it to this stage before hacking it off, but I think I'll get my saw out and I'll chop that off. I also do need to trim around the edge of this bottom bit and cut a hole in the side of the box here. So perhaps I'll do all of my chopping to-dos first. Slicing implements. Firstly, I'm going to cut the hole in the side of this black box here, because I'm going to have the multi-plug kind of hiding underneath there on the top of the desk, just so you can't see all the cable clutter. But I need to be able to access it to plug things in or unplug things, obviously. So I just want this box to have a nice kind of hole archway thing in it. That sliced through actually really easily, which is good. Now I'm going to cut off this front bit, because this whole front section is just going to be one curve around, and I kind of sliced into it before, but I never properly cut through it, so let's do that. This thing is so efficient. It actually scares me how well this cuts. to even be holding it because that was easy slicing. Now I'm going to do the most annoying bit and saw this off. The sound is already driving me crazy. Now we can carry on with the papering. I've got this hole here now which I want to cover up, and I'm thinking why not shove this scrap bit from the bottom down into there just to fill it up a bit more. I don't think it can hurt. Now let's spin this around. I can get going on covering this back. The hole's gone. Still pretty flimsy, but we've got a long way left to go. I don't know how many coats I'm going to do on this, but it'll be a few. It's becoming a bit top heavy, so I want to fix up this bottom bit next to the thing. I'm feeling a bit anxious about this project at present. In one way, I can see how I want it to look in my head, but then I can also easily envision a version of this that just looks so Carol Smiley changing rooms, and it's hard to see past that at this current moment. I've ended up going for a few little cubbies on this first shelf here to make sure that the top shelf has enough strength. I just want to say I don't endorse any of the messages in the newspapers that I'm using, because I've just realised that this one that I'm ripping up at the moment is a Daily Mail, and I just want to say I didn't buy it. I got all of these out of my neighbour's recycling because they were getting rid of a load of newspaper, and if there's one thing I like, it's wombling for newspaper. But yeah, Daily Mail contents, utter shit. I've taken that scraggly end shelf off because it keeps getting in the way, and every time I need to leave the room I like fall over it, and I'm thinking I can do all the paper mache inside of this bit before I reattach it. This type of thing, a storage boxy compartment type thing, is one of my favourite things to make from paper mache, because if you're thinking about storage, it's so satisfying to be able to make it exactly to your specifications, and paper mache is like a budget, easy DIY home solution to get exactly what you want. Now this shelf's off, I'm thinking what I want to do when I put it back on is actually have it as a removable shelf, because then it makes it much easier to move this unit around, and it can just be propped from this ledge to this pillar here. It's definitely feeling more solid now than it was earlier, but it still is nowhere near done. A new day for more paper mache. The first thing I actually did today was take this through to the living room to test it out relative to the TV and the sideboard, and I would say that I'm currently on the edge of concern. We've not yet reached the part of the project where this is feeling like something solid and proper, and that is worrying me slightly. But I did go over to re-inspect that other paper mache furniture thing that I made. Gave it a little rub and a touch to remind myself that this is going to feel much more solid and purposeful once it's done. I'm pretty happy with this section now, and I think I'm going to move on to this cubby. And I'm actually really excited to do a second coat of the paper mache here, because I keep catching this picture of a spider out of the corner of my eye and jumping, and it will be good to not have to look at it anymore. I don't actually mind spiders, but it's just uncomfortably placed. Let's continue. I've just been working on the underside of this box, which is proving to be pretty fiddly because there's this corner here, so all of these bits are a bit hard to paper mache. I've cut another hole out of the far side of it, which is where the wire from the multi-plug can go out. Obviously we've got the archway at the top so that you can access it from there, but the cable itself is going to want draining out of sight. And yeah, it's getting there. Free skin serum up for grabs. Or you could read a special report by Paul Bracci. Can't wait to paint over all of it. All surfaces that are currently visible are actually pretty well done now. But I was just staring at this as it's currently looking, and I realised that the corner of this box is really jarring to me. Most of this shape is quite curved and fluid. Obviously there are some straight lines, but generally it's more of an organic kind of flow. And this pointy corner sticking out like that, something about it bothers me. And obviously we've already got the little archway down around this side, and I'm thinking, why not extend that hole around onto the top of the box and just cut an oval shape out of this corner so that then the whole thing will just flow more nicely. And I've decided that that is precisely what I'm going to do. Possibly should have waited till the paper was dry to do this. Actually, I definitely should have. I find that once I've realised what something needs doing to it, I just want to get it done. So many layers. Okay, looks like it's been gnawed at by rats, but despite that fact, I do think it's going to look better overall. The multi-plug will still be pretty well hidden under there, but it will be easier to access, and also now I think this is flowing better. Here's the next day. It's time to put this back the right way up. I have started adding a layer of loo roll over the top of the newspaper in the areas that I'm happy with. Gives it a nice textured finish, which I prefer. And it also helps me to remember what bit is done, because they're the bits that are covered in wet loo roll. Guten Morgen. I've just been to town and back to get some more supplies. Needed some more glue, so I picked that up. I also needed some more loo roll. This is actually not the loo roll that I bought. This is the loo roll that I had left in the flat, because I could only find really quilted stuff in town today, and you really want a lower ply. The stuff that's best for your ass isn't necessarily best for your furniture pieces. So I'm all stocked up. Also, I want to tell you, yesterday after I finished paper macheing, I had really gluey hands and I took my glasses off and my fingers like stuck to the side of my glasses, and then when I pulled it outwards I snapped my frames in twain. As you can see, I did do quite a lot of the loo roll yesterday. It's mostly dry except for in the crevices where it's a little bit thicker. I realised that I need to add one other element to this top layer, and that is just a little ridge in the middle at the front, because this is obviously just going to have a canvas on it, and this will hold it in place and hopefully stop it from falling forwards. So I'm just going to stick that down and then stick stuff over it as I do. I will go over this once more once it's dry, but here we have our little ledge. And I think you've seen enough of this for now, so let's return back when all of the paper mache on this is done. And here it be. It is covered 360 in the loo roll now, even the base. This bit looks like it's not been covered, but it's just because I ran out of PVA, so I used Mod Podge for this. So it dried clear, but it is still textured as the rest of it is. I am still waiting on my shelf to fully dry. The little well here that slots onto that is still damp inside, but it will eventually slot on there once it's dry. But for now today, I think I might as well get on with painting, because it's probably going to take a couple of coats. But before I do that, I do need to give it a light little sand. So let's do that now. It's always a good idea to wear a mask when you sand, so that you're not inhaling loads of little paper and glue particles. I don't know exactly what that does to your insides, but I can't imagine that it's good. Freshly sanded and looking identical to how it did before. I am so excited to paint this. I do usually paint my paper mache things with acrylic paint, but I have used emulsion on other larger projects before, just because you get more emulsion generally than you get acrylic. And I found that once it's sealed with the Mod Podge at the end, the finish is just as nice. Since emulsion paint paints over lining paper, that's just paper and glue at the end of the day. And this is just paper and glue too, so let's hope that we have no issues. Now I'm in the room with the actual natural light in it. The purple paint is looking even more purple. Yeah, so purple and so satisfying. It's finished! I ended up giving it 2 coats of the paint and 1 coat of Mod Podge to seal it all in nicely. It's pretty strong now and will easily hold everything that I need it to. I have been testing it as I go and it looks more or less like my original drawing, except of course that it's purple and not brown, and I am still a little bit salty about that. On its own, objectively, is it a beautiful thing to look at? No, not particularly, but I am still confident that once it's in the space and everything else is around it, it's going to work out in the way that I'd planned. In order to bring that vision to life though, I still have a couple more projects that I need to tackle in this video. So for now, let's put this thing to one side and move on to the next thing. So when I decided to make over this little space, I knew that one of the key things it needed was a piece of art above the TV. Something that was going to draw your eye up and away from the screen itself, and also something that was going to be quite contrasting and poppy against that dark background. And I decided to combine it with something that I've actually been looking for ages. That is a big print or painting of clouds, because I think clouds are just beautiful. And I have been watching a few different cloud paintings on eBay, some of which are really nice, but they are all a little bit pricey and also not the scale that I want for this space. What I really want is one big thing that's going to fit that whole wall above the TV. And so instead I looked to my own hoard of things, and I of course have this canvas. This is like a painted self-portrait that I did maybe 7 years ago. It was me with kind of this warped Snapchat filter on my face, and to be honest, I'm not keen on it. Having a big, not very well executed painting of my own face in my house. I think it's time for it to go. And this is a good sized canvas, so I'm just going to paint over this. I think there can be some reluctance sometimes to paint over or redo something that you've made in the past. But in the spirit of trying to be more sustainable, I actually feel like it's good. It's the life cycle of a canvas. And because this is going to be a painting of clouds, which by the way, I'm not overly confident that I can do well, but we're going to try. I need basically all of this to be a lot lighter than it is now. So I've got all of this black hair and stuff, which is going to be a bit of a pain to paint over. So I'm going to go over the whole thing of it with a grey bluey background colour today, and then I'll let that dry. It already looks much better, let's be honest. This is a nice kind of painting to be doing at the start of the new year, I think. It feels somewhat hopeful looking up at the sky. We're going into 2025 and the world feels incredibly dark. There's so much going on all the time. I'm trying to go into the new year with an appropriate amount of optimism that things are going to get better, but also a good degree of realism that things aren't going to get better without a collective effort. And so in 2025, I want to recommit to trying to be part of the solution through activism and community. Community is not something I'm always good at because a lot of the time being around people unnerves me. But now more than ever, it's very important. As far as my channel goes in 2025, I really want to carry on doing what I'm doing. Making, sharing and posting, I'm really loving it. There's some elements of it that I find more difficult than others. And I'm also really actively trying to make this a viable source of income for myself. So I am dipping my toe potentially into doing some sponsorships with companies or a company that I deem appropriate. It's a big blue canvas and that's all we can really achieve on it today. You can still see the face a little bit through it, but now it's blue. It's an icy January morning and I have been looking for an appropriate reference photo to paint from for this. So I just searched my phone photos and I found this photo, which I apparently took in 2013, and it has a nice variation of clouds on it. Obviously it's the wrong shape for this canvas, so I just zoomed in until I had kind of a more vertical rectangle and took a few different screenshot options of compositions. Of the 3 that I took, I think I'm going to be painting this one because I like that it has quite a lot of the blue but then a nice variety of cloud as well. So I'm going to start today by just roughly painting in the cloud shapes on this canvas to match my photo here with a bit of white paint, and then we'll have our composition kind of laid down to work into. I feel a bit silly when I try and do art speak because I don't really know what I'm talking about. But let's crack on. It looks pretty shit right now, and I want to reassure myself that this is going to work out okay. So I'm going to try and do this bottom bit with a bit more detail to see how good I can get it looking. It will still need more coats though. It's been a couple of hours and progress is slow, but I do think that this little corner that I've been working on looks a lot less rubbish than the rest of it, which gives me the motivation that I need to continue. It's a new day and the wind is howling, and I'm back working on my cloud painting. When I was painting this yesterday, I kept losing track of where I was in this image, so then I would just zoom in to the appropriate bit, because after a while your eyes start going crazy and it all looks samey enough that you can't quite hone in on the bit that you're painting. So I've been going over and over this same bit for just hours now, and I still am not happy with how it looks. And then I've got the whole rest of this unfinished canvas just looming over me. So I'm thinking I need to switch technique because it's going to take me way too long and I need to get this video out at some point. So I'm moving away from my little brush and back onto my big fan brush, and I'm going to try and do it in a more loose, painterly, brush strokey way. That will hopefully be quicker, but I'm not that confident with this technique, so it might actually be slower. I've been at it for a couple more hours and I feel like it's finally starting to take shape, and I can see that it's going to look okay when it's done. So going back to the bigger brush has sped up the process considerably. End of day 2 of this painting, and this is how it looks. Start of painting day 3, and this is at the end of painting day 3. It's a couple of weeks since the last time I worked on this painting, because I actually started it before I started the TV unit thing, and then I did most of it and then I moved attention over to the TV unit and kind of forgot that I hadn't finished this. So I do need to finish it today. All that really needs doing is this bottom right hand corner here, which I just never got to before. I also do want to paint the sides of the canvas, which I think I'll do maybe just a darker navy blue or something. Somewhere in between the colours that we've got here and the colour that we've got on the wall. And then this guy will be ready to hang. It's an hour or so later and here it is. I'm gonna say it's done. When I look at it close up, I actually really don't like it at all, but from a distance altogether, I do think it looks good. You can tell that it's clouds in a sky, and I reckon when it's above the TV, that's gonna look pretty nice. Now I'm just gonna paint the sides of this and leave it to dry, and I'll show you how it looks once that's done. I used to find signing my work really pretentious, but now I like doing it because when I think about the secondhand paintings and things I've had from charity shops, I love it when I have a bit of the artist's information or the year that it was painted, and I assume this painting will outlive me, so might as well put it into context. Very, very close to being ready to put all the stuff into this little wall and style it and finish the video. I've only got one more project left to talk about in this video, and that is of course changing my dollhouse into a little lamp to go on the bottom of these shelves. So let's roll the clip of that now. Dollhouse time. So this DIY is pretty quick and easy. I really love the exterior of this dollhouse already, so I don't want to do anything to that. But because I am turning this into a lighting feature, I do want to paint all of the interior rooms in one colour so that the light shining through the windows has a similar coloured glow throughout. After rifling through my stocks, I found that I have quite a lot of this light pink wood paint left over from painting my hallway doors, and I figured it was as good an option as any. So I gave the inside of the house a good clean, a quick sand, and then I got to painting. I did a few coats over a couple of days and then I left it to dry, and here it is. Because I used wood paint, it does have quite a glossy finish, which is satisfying and will hopefully help to bounce the light around inside of the house well. My original plan was to get some of that LED strip lighting and wire this up as a normal house would be on the ceilings. But then I remembered that I already have this LED plug-in sunset lamp thing, which I got a few years ago and which has a really nice orangey warm glow to it. Since I already own this, it's obviously a better option for the planet and my pockets. So I'm literally just going to lie it down on its side inside of here and let it do its thing. It doesn't look like much right now because it's daylight, but in the dark, I promise you this looks really good. It's actually quite handy that this front bottom window doesn't have any of these bars across it, because I will be able to just reach in through here to turn the light on and off. I did think though that I don't want the bottom of this lamp to be visible through this window, so I did also whip up a tiny little curtain out of some stripy fabric, which I can hang right here. And with that, that is the last project of this video completed. So now tomorrow, all that's left to do is move all of these things that I've made back into the space and do some styling. So I will see you again in the morning to do exactly that. The time has come to put things back in this space, and I'm not sure if you can hear it in my voice, probably, but I'm actually quite ill. So that is inconvenient because I would really like to be horizontal right now, but instead we're gonna crack on because all I really need to do is put some things on some shelves, don't I? That's easy enough. First up, let's have another go at peeling the tape of the bits that I retaped and painted because I messed them up first time. Slow and steady wins the race. That's one thing done. I'm already exhausted. Next up, I think let's get this paper mache thing in here, shall we? Emily's newest concoction is finding its way home. That's one bit of it. The shelf. I may use a command strip at the back of this just to secure it. Depending on how sturdy it feels, it doesn't need it. Wonderful. I think the fact that the back bit is all textured and you can see the box lines underneath it makes it look really naff. But I'm not actually at all concerned about that because obviously the TV is going to be covering all of that anyway. Speaking of the TV, let's move her in place too. Multi-plug goes in the multi-plug nook. Plug out of my hole at the back. I need to sneeze. Plug in. Check that it turns on, shall we? Next, let's bring in our cloud painting. This is the first time I'm going to have seen it all together with this painted and the painting and stuff on top, and I hope it looks good. The edges are all painted like a dark navy colour now, which I do think is going to look nice against this wall. Next up for art, we've got this framed vintage Sunday school poster, which I'm going to prop kind of asymmetrically on the top of this here. Then on this wall, I was going to prop up this print, which I got from Family Store in Brighton, and I really love it, but I recently broke the frame for it. So instead of putting that there, and now what I'm going to do is go back to my old coat hanger trick and steal this tea towel that I had up on the wall over there, which has got a variety of creepy fruits and vegetables on it. No damsons though, unfortunately. And we're going to hook that up there. And I feel like these three things together fill that dark purple space quite nicely, no? Now obviously I've got all my little shelves and cubbies to fill, and I'm going to do that with an assortment of little bits and bobs. Room here for some big books and maybe some smaller books over on here. I'm going for a kind of cluttered, chaotic look, which is what I usually go for if I'm honest. I've got this little ceramic basket, which is where I put stones and shells when I bring them back from the beach before the point that I use them for potting plants. And maybe that's nice there. Little wooden bowl of keys. Then I got my little cat incense burner that I made and a little foot candle holder that my boyfriend's mum made me for Christmas. Key point to note, never light a candle when it's on paper mache storage. Always take it down if you want to light it. That looks kind of cute. Does it need more? We've still got this little shelf free, of course. So I'm going to put up this little framed illustration of a lion. Then, because I love to decorate with doll's house furniture, I've got a couple of little dollhouse chairs, which tie in the colours from the frame and from that thing. I think that looks pretty good. Now we can move attention over to these shelves. And first things first, of course, I need to bring in my dollhouse. Dollhouse, dollhouse, dollhouse. How I love thee. I was thinking this will actually be a perfect storage space for when somebody's birthday or Christmas is coming up and I'm hiding presents for them. I can put it in the dollhouse. Now all I need to do is finish styling these shelves, tidy the rest of the room a little bit, and then we'll be ready for the final reveal. It's definitely different than it was before, and I'm going to say with confidence that it's an improvement. Before this makeover, this space really hadn't been given any love. I always thought the TV was such an eyesore, so I just let this area become a dumping ground for miscellaneous frames and other things that I didn't have a home for, most of which you couldn't actually see because the TV was in the way. Now, with the addition of my paper mache storage unit, this area finally feels purposeful. It's full of art and bric-a-brac now all properly on display, and I didn't have to put a single hole in my shitty lath and plaster walls. Speaking of the walls, well, I can't say that I'm completely obsessed with this accidental purple colour. I do like it, and it has inspired me, I think, to do more painting in this room and to try not to take it too seriously and just have fun with it. I'm dreaming about doing murals on my ceiling, but I don't know if that will look awful. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Also, if this wall behind me is now bothering you, let me just say likewise and don't fret, because I am going to be moving the art off there and doing something on that wall, I think, in a video coming up quite soon. So subscribe if you'd like to see that. I'm also pretty happy with how my cloud painting turned out, and I do think that it was successful in its goal of lifting your natural eye line up from the ugly TV screen onto the walls. Finally, of course, I cannot tell you how excited I am about this dollhouse lamp. It's everything I've ever wanted, and I'm going to be having it lit up for every cozy TV night from today going forwards. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me. I really do appreciate you more than I can express. It means a lot that anyone would watch these silly videos that I make. Okay, my voice is painful, and I think I've done more than enough talking, so I'm going to take my makeup off, put my dressing gown on, and sit in front of this TV where I belong.